continue this changing the narrative concept. Mackenzie, you said something to me that really stood out on changing the narrative of stigmas and cliches into skills of value and superpowers. Can you elaborate?
Absolutely, because I love to talk about superpowers. You guys know I started as a copywriter, so I really believe in the power of words. And we all know that there's a lot of derogatory phrases or stigmas that can be used against women. And even though they come from external sources, they also become internalized. So to tie that back to imposter syndrome, when you are feeling that lack of confidence, you start repeating those internalized phrases to yourself. But I think reclamation is really powerful. When it comes to those stereotypes, those stigmas, I try not to avoid them. We should really look them in the face boldly. And in doing so, flipping it around, embracing that, it becomes an act of, one, disempowering the stigma and the words, and then empowering yourself through doing that. You really turn it on its head. And I think that, especially for the women that you are modeling those behaviors for, that is such a powerful act. I actually like to refer to it as pulling a Missy Elliott, because you flip it and reverse it. And feel free to use that.
I will.
In the end, it's not just about reclamation, though, it's about reframing. So those words that may be used as a derogatory statement or definition against you, like softness. People say women are too soft, but we're not soft, we're compassionate, and compassion is a strength. Just like sensitivity is about empathy and understanding other people is such incredible power.
Agreed. Kate, is there another one that could be converted into a place of power?
Yeah, I've been in, again, thousands of meetings, I'm sure, over the course of my career. And, I think sometimes, again, not so recently, but been, kind of quiet, she's very quiet. She doesn't say a lot, and I think sometimes that can be taken as, oh, well, it's a passive approach, when I really feel it's more the power of listening. And I feel like in a lot of meetings, there's so many people trying to talk and be heard that I've really worked on and really been attentive to listening during these meetings, because I feel like that it's a little bit rooted in emotional intelligence. Because if you're not having these, these very kind of like in the moment comments, kind of reactive, I find that as I approach, meetings with a number of different stakeholders or clients or vendors, the more I listen, I use that to really frame my next statement or my next approach to the maybe complex situations we're discussing, instead of really jumping in and just trying to be heard. I do think sometimes, as other women I've seen do that too, I feel like we tend to be maybe more listening approach, and it might be perceived as passive or quiet, when I really do feel like that's a superpower, is really being attentive, listening, and then really being able to frame your next move or statement in that scenario.
Yeah, just to add to that, Kate, I think that's really interesting. It's something that, kind of tying back to imposter syndrome, I feel like I struggled with as I moved into new roles where I was in meetings with key stakeholders of the company. I would leave that meeting and be like, I didn't say anything. I didn't contribute anything. So, they're not going to see the value in me being in that meeting. But over time, I think I really learned that as long as I was actively listening and walking away with key action items and things that I could do to improve my team or help move the company along, that it was okay that I didn't, come up with some great idea, some grand idea within that meeting, that I was just really absorbing everything and walking away with my next steps and what I needed to do.
Couldn't agree more. I also feel, just to add something to that, all of the three of you speaking towards the concept, all of those lessons are really powerful for the internal, but I also think it's important to share it externally. we are surrounded by people who haven't lived in the same shoes as us. And I think it's okay to bring up and address those things as powers to people who may not experience it that way. To be clear, to illustrate something like quietness and softness and compassion are powers of that employee, when maybe a male counterpart, without knowing, doesn't know to celebrate those things or to apply those things. So I think these are really valuable lessons that are both things that we should take internally, but also take the opportunities to advocate for those concepts so that the people around us are learning too, because it's not necessarily their fault for not seeing it the way that we see it or seeing those skills, because even a woman that sits next to us that doesn't have those qualities isn't going to see that as the power that we're learning that it is. If we're actively learning it, it's hard for them to see it and learn it themselves. So really encourage everyone listening to take these lessons and make sure that you're vocalizing it when you see a teammate or somebody that you can champion that might be illustrating these qualities, not only giving them the confidence, but advocating for them when they're not in the room. Are there any other insights that we want to share before we move on about, changing the narrative about stigmas or skills that we can illustrate for our audience? All right, we're going to move on to, there are stigmas and concepts that also penetrate different verticals differently. Is there anyone that wants to share a little bit about any of the space? Our agency touches so many different verticals and industries and subject matters. So is there anyone that wants to or feels comfortable chiming into the space that they're in?
I can kick us off here.
Yeah.
So a huge part of my job in innovation is working with artificial intelligence and harnessing artificial intelligence, which is constantly progressing. We know the landscape of artificial intelligence now from a year ago is just exponentially different. And AI is still a subset of the tech space, which for a long time has been viewed as lacking in inclusivity, and really maybe excluding women to a degree. But I think right now there is so much openness in the AI space. And I think we really need to remind ourselves that it's not just this tool for achieving an outcome, getting something done. It is an amazing tool for learning and teaching. And that's where I think there is tremendous opportunity for women, because one thing that is very unique and remarkable about artificial intelligence is that it is a tool that can teach you how to use itself. So I can say if you're looking to carve out a niche in a space, the first step is to learn. And with the powers of this tool and the learning capabilities, you can go from that novice to an expert in a very short amount of time, and you have complete control over that timeline and the pace at which you learn. That power is in your hands. I can speak from experience that over the past year, it's like I've gone down this rabbit hole with it, and I have learned so much in a short amount of time. And it has just been phenomenal, truly, for not just exciting and sparking passions, but also for helping me build confidence and to really stand up as a leader now in this space.